All I gotta say is if you see a white van with a Buffalo logo and I'm going 5 miles under the speed limit, 10 miles under the speed limit, you want to honk at me, you better have a set on balls on you. Be ready to be heckled until you get the fuck out of my sight. Because that's how it goes. I don't care if you're like 200 pounds, 250 pounds, 300 pounds. You better have a set of balls on you, and you better have a reason to fucking beep at me. That's all I gotta say. I think part of my frustration and my anger, I think where that comes from, and especially over the last few years, it's definitely, it's controllable, but I don't release any adrenaline. I rarely have situations where I'm able to release adrenaline. Most people release adrenaline on a regular basis. I think, like I said, like the last 3 years, so isolated, and dealt with things like social anxiety, my adrenaline will build, but I don't have any release for it. And I think that's, why I go back to the MMA. That's what I'm going to have to do. I'm just going to have to, if I'm going to, if it's going to build up, I'm going to have to find a way to release it. And that's going to be MMA. And I think that's, once I'm done with therapy, pretty quickly, I'm just a tough individual who's relatively strong for their size, heavily misunderstood. When I dealt with all that stuff at that place of employment, basically I lost, I would say, 95% of the people that were in my life, and a lot of my frustration and anger comes from that. But I've moved on as best as I've been able to, and I think when I'm in a position where I'm more settled, I'm gonna take the proper steps to. I even got a tattoo on my arm specifically because, like, even before I dealt with what I was dealing with about 3 years ago, what started about 3 years ago, I acknowledged myself as a person who can build up a lot of adrenaline and use that to their advantage. And I even got a tattoo specifically because of that. People would look at it and, like, even when I explained it to them, like, not understand it, because when you're a nice guy, when you're a nerdy, intelligent guy, you can't be physically respected or strong, or it's hard for people to see you as like an athlete. And I'm going to change that. Never really talked about this before. I'm definitely gonna, when I find a therapist to talk to, I'm gonna talk to them about this for sure. I have definitely reasons and time frame to do this, but I think that all that I've been through in the last 3 years, even when like nothing happens in a day, like I don't even interact with anybody. Nothing negative, nothing that would piss you off happens. When I go through old memories of things, just unsettled things that very corrupt and wrong, basically through like lies and manipulation to cover people's own behinds. Like my anxiety and my adrenaline it'll just build. It'll build, it'll build, it'll build. And my body gets really numb. It gets really numb. My entire body will get numb. And I mean, this is one of the really big reasons I want to use this in MMA. I want to use this to my advantage. Most people aren't like this. Most people don't have this. And I can't really think of another productive way to use this. So, like I said, I've always, what was I trying to say? I've always wanted to do MMA in the past. When I played football when we first did tackling drills, I started out, I think I was in a younger age group. I started out playing against older kids, and that definitely made me a tough kid. When I started playing against kids my own size and my own age, when we started doing tackling drills, like, I would naturally let out a war cry, and that's just like who I am. But like growing up as a nerd, as like someone who wasn't ever really respected, as like a pushover, as a nice guy, like all the way through up to my senior year in high school, I would sit at the senior table and I would literally get made fun of by the entire school on a regular basis. I don't really know too many people like that like were like me, I guess. But I like, this is just something I think me transitioning to MMA. I did MMA one time in the past. I trained one time in college. I went to like a free like training session where it was like there was no striking involved. Everyone there either had some experience or not much experience. I had zero. I got paired against somebody who had like a lot of grappling experience, but was maybe like 10 pounds lighter than me. And I threw him around like a fucking rag doll. And it got to the point where I didn't really know what I was doing, but the person couldn't use any of their techniques on me because I would just overpower them with my strength. The person who was teaching the class, I don't know how much experience they had. I imagine a few years, outweighed me by, I think, like 20 pounds. And it was pretty even. It was pretty even, and I just didn't know how to finish. And I was doing civil engineering. It wasn't something, I definitely saw promise, but it was something that I couldn't dedicate time to, like other things, because I was in a pretty rigorous civil engineering course through undergrad and grad school. And now's the time. I don't work anymore. I work for myself. I think I'm gonna start doing MMA full time. Absolutely. I can take a lot of pain. I burned my leg the other day, and that doesn't even, like, I don't know. I think it would just trigger my trauma. Absolutely. I'm going to use it to my full advantage. I'm going to find some of the best trainers, and if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but I'm going to give it a fucking shot. I'm going to give it a hell of a shot.
Left onto River Road, St. Mihail Drive.
Like a locked ball of numb fucking adrenaline. You have nowhere to put it, nowhere to stick it, nothing to do with it. I'm just going to feed my fucking adrenaline. I'm going to do some research on some good trainers. Probably find a couple gyms throughout the country.
You start with a fresh pad and cleaning solution every time. And when you're done, you just toss the pad. Swiffer Wet